Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Taos, Baltimore. We call this thing Baltimore Positive. The Yankees are in town for at least 9 more innings, or maybe 8.5 more innings, although they will bat. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I'll be at Fadley's, but like the game time changed and things happened, and don't worry about it. I will have scratch offs in the Maryland Lottery this week. I'll also have them next week at Fishmonger's Daughter. That's on Thursday of next week. That'll be in Catonsville. Our friends at GBMC have left me behind this fantastic Walk a Mile in Their Shoes shirt. We had Danny Imbrogolio on last week from SAFE and from their program there about sexual assault and domestic violence. We encourage all of you to read up and know the facts about it at GBMC. Also, our friends at Farnan and Dermer. Lucas is wearing the Comfort Guys gear. We had Zach at last week at Planet Fitness. You'll hear him along with Dennis O'Donovan, my AI specialists from Planet Fitness last week, as well as April, who stopped by in May. And my wife is going to June, so my wife joined and went to Planet Fitness, so she'll be in better shape in June. Her birthday's coming up in a couple weeks. I think she's, feeling her summer. Luke Jones is here. He is feeling the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees, and I don't know, they won on Monday night. That felt nice. And then Tuesday, it sort of, form reverses back again. And look, if these teams played each other, the Yankees would win 100 out of 160 of them, right? I mean, it really, the Yankees are so much better than the Orioles are at this moment.
I mean, it sure feels that way. It sure looks that way. You're talking about a 1-5 record from the Orioles' perspective, but the story Tuesday night was the starting pitching, right? I mean, we keep trying to do this. I'm not trying to be negative about this team. I'm not trying to be completely down on this team. When they have a big win, I'm trying to see the path for them to start playing better, to make some hay, to get on a roll. And on Tuesday night, hey, Trevor Rogers is coming back from the IL. You go back to the last series against the A's. Bradish, albeit in a losing effort, pitched his best game of the season. He looked good. Bassett looked good, albeit as a bulk guy and not technically the starter, but he pitched well on Sunday. You get a gutsy, kind of grinded out effort from Brandon Young on Monday night that gives the Orioles a chance to come back with the Kobe Mayo home run late in the game. And you're looking at this and you're trying to say, okay, is this the rotation slowly but surely starting to round in the form? Well, Trevor Rogers gives up a home run to Paul Goldschmidt on the first pitch of the game, fastball right down the middle. And then in the third inning, he gives up a 5 spot. It's 6-0 in the top of the third inning. So, I mean, not to completely absolve the Orioles hitting because the bats have gone pretty quiet here of late, even with some of these games that they've won here recently. But you're down 6-0 in the third inning. That's not a recipe for beating anyone, let alone the New York Yankees. And of course, the Orioles left the bases loaded in the bottom of the third with nobody out and didn't score there. But Trevor Rogers, I mean, let's face it, he was almost a fairy tale story amidst all the disappointment of 2025 in general. Trevor Rogers was such a great story. He has a 5.77 ERA. We talked about it a lot going into the year. Trevor Rogers and Kyle Bradish. Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers, 1-2, whichever order you wanted to put them in. We questioned whether that 1-2 punch was good enough. Problem is, these guys aren't even pitching like middle of the order quality starting pitchers, middle of the rotation.
Well, we
starting
bought
pitchers.
in on 8 weeks of meaningless baseball from the franchise's perspective, not for them individually, certainly not for a lot of the competitors they were competing with, trying to win last summer, but we turned that into an in our mind in the offseason to think that Wayne Garland was going to do it for another year, or John Means was going to do it for another year, this isn't Palmer and Flanagan and Steve Stone and Scott McGregor here. These aren't guys with huge bodies of work, not to mention arm repairs, right? Like in a general sense for Bradish to know what he's going to be post-surgery. I don't know. I feel snookered, I feel bought in on potential and I bought in on positivity because that's what I do around here. Even when the team's in last place, I have to be positive about it. It's not my job. That's Kevin Brown's job. My job's to be honest with people. So I was honest with folks in the offseason when I saw the light of spending money on Alonso, spending money on a 37-year-old pitcher they thought could do it one more year. That would really bolster that rotation. I mean, forget Rogers and Bradish. They were slotted. They were gonna be really good. The rest of it was how the rest of it was going to catch up to be good. And I don't know. Kobe Mayo, Colton Cowser, Jackson Holiday, Jordan Westberg. These are all names, right? Like you say them out loud. Not to mention the Mount Castles and the Tyler O'Neills and the ghost of last year and the year before that and the year before that are still around. Not to mention what they paid Alonso, what the expectations are for Gunnar Henderson. Not Rico Garcia, not Jeremiah Jackson to hit the ball for 2 weeks, or you know Leody Tavares to be a nice story for them. Like their stars aren't being stars, period. Right? Like that's that. And that's when that doesn't happen, you don't win.
Yeah, and look, with the rotation, we can talk a lot about the fact, okay, they didn't go get Dylan Cease, they didn't go get Ranger Suarez, they didn't go get Valdez. But to the point I just made, Bradish and Rogers, if they were your 3 and 4, they're not nearly good enough right now, right? I mean, no one in the rotation has been good enough. Think about this, Nestor. Brandon Young, who we've questioned over and over, and I'm still questioning. I'm not saying he's
He's
on
their
his
eighth
way.
starter, by the way, right? Maybe
He has.
ninth if you put Eflin in.
I would have put him at eighth, right? Because you had your top six that we talked about throughout the spring. Kramer, of course, went to the minors at the end of the year or end of spring training, and I Povich was the seventh, right? And Povich,
Well,
if you
and
recall,
Chase McDermott was the guy last year that
oh
was in line
yeah,
first.
yeah. I mean,
Okay,
he
fair
he
enough.
he wasn't that guy anymore, but you had Cade Povich and Brandon Young. Brandon Young was number 8 in the pecking order. He's got a better ERA than any of these guys right now. So I'll hear the whole they should have done more with the rotation, but a number one starter isn't the only thing that's ailing this rotation right now. I mean, none of them have been good enough, right? I mean, even Bradish after his last start, which, like I said, I was encouraged by that. That was the first time all year where it felt like Kyle Bradish, the guy we were thinking he was going to look like. So we'll see how he does in this finale against the Yankees. We'll see how he does moving forward. But with Rogers, look, there was always, you heard me say this over and over again throughout the offseason and in spring training. He wasn't going to have a sub 2 ERA again. However, with an ERA of 5.77, I mean, you're talking about one extreme to the other, right? I'll take a couple of these guys, like what Brandon Young's done, a 4.15 ERA, and it's a little deceiving from the standpoint of there were a couple outings where he had some unearned runs, and maybe it looked, should look a little worse than what those numbers are, but he's competed and he's given them a chance a little more frequently than some of these other guys. And that's way less of a compliment to Brandon Young and way more an indictment of the guys that were supposed to be in the is category for them. So look, can complain about the defense not helping out the starting pitching. That's very valid as well. There were even a couple plays in that third inning, which I would not classify as poor defense as much as if you have a better third baseman on that chopper down the line, maybe you throw him out there. Maybe you throw out who was it? It was Rosario. Maybe you throw him out there and you get out of the inning. But that was a tough play. I mean, even for Kobe Mayo, for a good third baseman, that was a tough play. I'm not going to put that on the defense, but it's not good enough. We keep trying to lay out every time they have a big win, and of course they're going to win some games. I mean, they're not going to go. They're not the worst team in baseball. They're not going to go 0 for the rest of the season, but I'm just at a point now where they win a game and I say, okay, well, how about you win 4 more and then maybe I'll be impressed by what you're doing, right? And that's kind of where they are. They have a chance to win this series. If they do that, good. It's a market improvement. You've got Bradish going, albeit against Max Fried. Not an easy matchup, but you have Bradish going into the season. You'll take days where Bradish is going to the hill, but they're not gaining any footing. They're not gaining any momentum. They're not getting on any semblance of a roll. It's now been a month since they last won 3 in a row. It's really tough to play baseball that way in terms of having fancying yourself as any kind of a contender that's going to do anything of
Well, they're
consequence.
not going to win
And
3 in a row when they're playing the Yankees, right? When they're
oh,
playing
sure,
better
but they didn't
teams
even
with
give
better.
themselves a chance on Tuesday night. That's my point. I mean, Trevor Rogers gives up 6 runs in 3 innings. It's over. I mean, that game was over at that point, and especially when they leave the bases loaded and nobody out. in the bottom half of the inning. I mean, it's over at that point. I I stopped keeping score after the third inning. I started working on some writing, and that's just where we are with this team when they get starting pitching like that. They're 28th in the majors in starter ERA. Only the Astros have been worse. Go look at the number of guys missing from their rotation. Uh, with all due respect to Zach Eflin and Dean Kramer,
Well, starter ERA, there's a hell. You bring up a lot of stats and you do a lot of fanboy stuff and you advanced analytics and
there's nothing advanced about that. That's
no,
pretty,
that
yeah,
that's a great stat. Team starter ERA. I wonder in the history of baseball, not just modern, but in the history of baseball. I wonder where the Orioles starting ERA for their starters were from 1966 to 1983, and that's why they competed, right? Like literally over the body of work, if you're getting a little bit of length and you're getting a decent ERA. You're going into the seventh inning every night with a chance to win. You're up a run, down a run, up a couple of runs, but you're not down a couple of runs. You're not down 5-1 in the seventh
right.
if your starter ERAs are good,
Yeah.
right? So that's a hell. I've been on the air 35 years. I don't know that I've ever thought about team wide. You said they're 28th. I'm thinking, what would what would be acceptable enough to call yourself a playoff team? Top 10, obviously, right? But like, if you hover in the top 10, even if you don't hit the ball well, if you're like the Indians a couple of years ago, whatever, you're going to be a playoff team because your starting pitching is going to give you, I mean, unless you really stink offensively, and the Indians did, but you'd have the opportunity to be good like that. And that isn't about one Trevor Rogers or one Kyle Bradish. That's about the body of the rotation, which is what I bought in on. In
Yeah.
March, I believe that they had 6 major league pitchers. I didn't believe Brandon Young was one of them, by the way.
No.
Um, and Tyler Wells was also a guy who was a starter that they moved to the bullpen. They've had all of these arm guys that have had the know-how and the ability to go out um and stretch out if they need to. I'm just tremendously disappointed as we sit. It's Preakness week. I said we would. By the way, we're not judging them at Fadley's on Wednesday because they moved the game to 1 o'clock again. Um, yeah, just the thing. Even on Tuesday night, like late in the game, I'm watching Aaron Judge taking it bat, and he challenged a pitch, and the crowd went nuts. It sounded like Yankee Stadium. I didn't vibe that out, but I'm just sort of like, when is it going to sound like Oriole Park when the Orioles are playing the Yankees? You know what I mean? Like we're 30 years into this. It's demoralizing in May, Preakness week. Not only that the Preakness doesn't have the Derby horse and they're running the damn thing at Laurel, and my wife
Right.
doesn't have a dress, and I need to figure out my hair. But the fact that it feels like you and I are not going to be relevantly talking about this baseball team a month from now. It feels like a month from now they're going to be 6 to 12 games under 500. They're not going to be three over. They're not going to be, dude, they need to be one over for me to think they're relevant. They're going to play this. I'm 3 games under 500, and it's still a trading deadline. We played 3 games over 500 all year long, and we're going to deal into the pennant race 6 weeks from now. I'm not buying that. I'm just not. I have a hard time thinking that this team's going to put together one of those 16-6 runs that they're going to need to make themselves relevant because they're not getting anything consistently, including leadership. Like the Elias Alvarez thing. 6 weeks into this, I'm trying to think of something to compliment them on as the Yankees try to beat them again. Like what are they
Yeah.
good at?
I mean,
They're not good at leadership. They're not good at ownership. They're good at giving. You know what they're good at? They're good at doing licensing deals with Tupac's sister and scamming out how to sell 40,000 tickets on a Friday night. They're good at baking that up. Like they
Mhm.
are. They're good at that. They're good at bobbleheads. They do bobbleheads well. I don't know what else they do well as a franchise. If I were rating 100 things from how they communicate to how they deal with the media to how they deal with their fans to how they caravan to their ticket prices to how they've spent $600 million of our money to how arrogant Katie Griggs is to how lost in the woods the ownership is here. I mean, I think Pete Alonso's seems like a good guy and a guy that if they were going to invest money in a star player, the problem is he's not a star player right now for them. And he's got no cue on the streets at all to sell tickets or to be the draw that the reason you go to the game, the reason you give them money. The reason you give them money right now is not because they're going to win or they are winning, even though I sold that 6 weeks ago and feel like a fool.
I mean, it's just they're not a very good baseball team, and until they start showing otherwise, I'm very much getting to the point where I'm believing them. I'm believing what they're showing us, right? I mean, it's to your point, what is the strength? Ironically, the bullpen's probably been a little bit better than I thought it would be, especially when you consider the injuries they've had,
I
right? I
thought
mean,
that would be their downfall,
right,
right?
right. And let me be clear, the bullpen's not great. Like I don't want to make it out to
I
be
thought
that.
they'd
I
have
mean,
five starters and one reliever. They'd be really be struggling through those 6 or 7 guys trying to figure out who they are. And the first 6 weeks, we're writing love letters to Rico Garcia at
I was
this
just gonna
point, right?
say, think about it. And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but why not? I mean, it's mid-May at this point. Well, it's not late, but it's not that early anymore, right? We're a quarter of the way through the season. Rico Garcia would be this team's all-star rep,
Right.
right? I mean, he will, and
Correct.
and let me be clear, he's been fantastic. Like that's not because they need one. He's been that great. Go look at his numbers. It's incredible what he's done so far. He's been a great story. I mean, Nestor, a year ago at this time, he was considering hanging it up. Like he was looking at his options in terms of like, he was in AAA and bounced around, including being with the Orioles a few years ago, albeit very briefly. He
And he's from
he
Hawaii, that dude,
he
right?
is a great story. I mean, he
Yeah.
really is. But man, there aren't many other than that right now, right? I mean, it's Taylor Ward drawing a bunch of walks. I'd like to see Taylor Ward start hitting for more power, right? I mean, the walks have been great, but you're talking about a guy who hit 30 plus home runs last year and he's got one home
I'd like to
run.
think that's going to turn on.
I think it will. I think it will, but I'm also getting tired of saying that. I agree with you, but how many guys are we going to keep saying that about? Adley Rutschman's played is having a good season, right? Adley Rutschman,
Man, and
it,
that was
that
something
was a
I
big
not would
question.
not bet on in May
That was a big
20th or March
question,
20th,
right? I
excuse
mean,
me.
so I don't want to make it out to be that there are no positives whatsoever, but when you're looking at areas of the team, right? Offense, defense, I almost said special teams because I'm kind of talking in football terms here, but offense, defense, uh, starting pitching, relief,
How
the
they run the bases, how they move,
yeah.
how they hit was runners in scoring
I mean, it's
position.
just there's
Just
not a whole lot to write home about. There just isn't. They've had some even they've had some gutty wins. They've had some comebacks, and those are the wins where you say, okay, like Monday night. Kobe Mayo, as awful as he's been, really cool moment. You're hoping that helps get the team going. Their first win against the Yankees, all of that, right? And then Trevor Rogers gives up 6 runs over the first 3 innings the next night, right? I mean, it doesn't even give you a chance. And there's just been too much of that. I mean, whether you're talking about the starting pitching, whether you're talking about the offense just not being nearly good enough and nearly potent enough and striking out way too much and not slugging enough to go with that swing and miss. I mean, the offense statistically is not awful, but it's painfully mediocre. And again, if you go back to the formula before the season, this is what I was just talking about with the rotation. This isn't an ace away from being a good rotation right now. It's not nearly good enough. I mean, Brandon Young's been their best starting pitcher. That's not a Brandon Young compliment. That's a damning indictment for everyone else in that rotation right now. And that's not even counting Eflin or Dean Kramer. Like their problem hasn't been Brandon Young and Cade Povich filling in. It's been the guys that have been healthy actually that haven't pitched well. So, but you look at that, you look at the defense that has just been terrible. And in
when
fairness,
I think of this team when it's all over with,
it's the
the
defense for
defense,
me.
man. Like
It's
I'm
worse than
50
I thought it
years
would be
into
even.
this, and This is the worst defensive club I've ever seen them put on the
I mean, they
field.
weren't good last year either, and I mean, it's not like that's been a calling card of
We've come a long way from
right,
J.J. Hardy and Adam
no
Jones, dude.
doubt. I mean, I
And Matt Wieters.
for you go back to 2014, and this is where I'm less moved about the injuries, right? Yeah, the injuries are a big part of their issues, right? Going back a couple years now, but you go back to that 2013 and especially that 2014 team. My goodness, they defended so well. They had guys that were either Gold Glove defenders or guys that played like Gold Glove caliber
that's
defenders.
Buck, isn't it? Right? That's Buck.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean, it was the players too, but yeah, the attention to detail and fundamentally crisp and having guys that were really good at certain positions rather than, I mean, Jackson Holiday started
I
another
mean,
game at
Manny
third.
Machado's as good a fielder as
Oh,
they
I mean,
ever had in this
at that point,
organization,
well,
right?
Manny Machado, keep in mind though, he was hurt in 14 for a good chunk of the season. So, and they didn't have him at all down the stretch. But they just, I look at that team and then I see this team, despite all the heralding of how great of athletes these guys are
Well,
and all
what Nick
that.
Markakis was and what Colton Cowser isn't.
Well, defense. Colton Cowser's the bad example. Colton Cowser actually is a good defensive player.
No,
He's
I mean as a first round
of
draft pick,
course, yeah, sure,
as
sure.
far as Markakis giving you 280 and 20 home
Oh,
runs, rolling out of bed every day,
right,
like literally that kind of guy. That's what I thought you were getting with a lottery pick in Colton Cowser, right?
sure.
That's what we thought we were getting.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I was talking more specifically about the defense, but yeah, across the board, sure. I mean, but you think about that team though, Nestor. Matt Wieters was gone in May, right? He had Tommy John surgery, was out for the rest of the year. They were going with Nick Hundley and Caleb Joseph as their battery.
That was
their
before Tyler
catchers.
Teagarden.
Yeah, yeah.
Taylor
Taylor
Teagarden,
Taylor
right?
no Taylor Teagarden was a couple years before that. Yeah,
Okay.
so had one big home run, but you look at that. Chris Davis hit sub what 196 that year. Had the Adderall suspension in September that year. Missed the playoffs. Manny Machado, remember, had the knee injury at the end of 13, so he was coming back from that, and then the other knee got hurt. He hurt the other knee in mid-August and was out for the rest of the year. So, man, you talk about a team on paper that was missing a ton, that 2014 team. Yet one reason why they were so successful, and they did other things really well also. And Steve Pierce had an MVO kind of type, most valuable Oriole caliber season out of nowhere. Adam Jones had a great year. I mean, they had a Nelson Cruz led the AL in home runs. I mean, all that. But man, their defense was so good and it made their rotation better. And that's one thing. The one thing I will say about the current rotation, as disappointing, very disappointing as it's been, it's not like the defense is helping them out much. I mean, there have definitely been times where you'd look at Bradish was a great example of that last Friday night. Better defense, and he has an even better looking final stat line than what it was. And the stat line was pretty good even as it was, but was a perfect example of the defense letting down as well. So they just to go back to the point you made a couple minutes ago. I mean, what is their calling card in terms of something that as a group they do well? And nothing really. I mean, nothing.
They do
They,
uniforms. They do City Connect jerseys well
I
and
will say,
bobbleheads.
I will
That's what
say,
they do.
I didn't necessarily like I don't necessarily like the combination because I like the cartoon bird hats, whether we're talking about the home one or the away one. I do like that alternate B hat. I like that so much better than the O's cap. That is a far superior alternate cap. But yeah,
They wore their alternate B caps the other night.
they wore them the last two
The
nights with,
B,
with, with
yeah.
the home white. Yeah, I like that cap. I mean, I do as an alternate. I like that cap with their black jerseys. I think that's a good
When you
look.
said alternate, I thought you were talking about that Camden Yards green and orange B.
Oh,
I've
I
seen more of that gear. Like it feels like a lot of people
people
bought
like
that
it.
gear this year.
As I said to you at the time, look, City Connect is not for you. It's not for me. I'm more of a uniform purist. I told you my City Connect would be a spin on the 66, that era of the script Orioles. I'd put Charm City or something like that instead. But people like it, man. I mean, like I think we're in the minority in terms of at least people that are buying merch, right? I mean, they're buying it. I
It
see
all
it
looks like
everywhere.
1993 All-Star Game Camden Yards
Yeah.
throwback
Well,
stuff to
and you
me.
do think back to that logo, and I do think that looking back at that, that was a good looking all-star logo they had on the patch of the jersey. A patch on the sleeve.
It was a
So
diamond, as I
yeah,
remember it.
it
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
star. It was a
yeah.
star with I
Okay.
think a diamond over top of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but but we're talking about that. I'd rather talk about the fact that this team's winning ball games and doing things that make you think, hey, this is going to get better.
Well, you
And
asked me what they're good at. I'm telling you what they're good
yeah,
at.
yeah,
When I think what they're good at, it ain't baseball. It ain't pitching. It ain't fielding. It ain't hitting. Like
uh,
literally. I mean, I've
few
been sitting here watching
individuals.
this manure for 7 weeks every day. That's not what they're good at. They're good at Be More. They're good at bobbleheads and Tupac and Nelly concerts and at
Yeah.
least your niece had a good time. Luke is here. He's Luke Jones. He's Baltimore Luke. He'll be monitoring all things Ravens scheduling on Thursday night. Leonard Raskin and I got into it about Rio and how dodgy Rio de Janeiro is, and how I wouldn't want to be the guy running that group trip down there with passports and policia and obrigado and all the other things going on down there with Corcovado. But schedule comes out Thursday. We'll talk some football around here on Friday as well. Um, Anything you want to say? I mean, the Orioles are going to be going down to DC this weekend too, right? Like, I don't. Are we waiting on anything beyond Jackson Holiday? I'm just. What are we waiting on at this point?
I mean, yeah, Jackson Holiday's the one that I guess is semi imminent. I'd still like to see him put together a nice run of at bats in the minors to kind of get himself going. I've said it to you. I
It's
don't
hard to
like
get
this.
yourself going here,
Well, sure, but
right?
I don't like the idea of him playing third base. I don't. I think that's one of those situations where you're trying to solve a problem and it begets another problem. I think the kid has a lot on his plate right now with coming back from the hand injury, and instead of making him a third baseman for what? I mean, Jeremiah Jackson, go look at his numbers over the last 3 weeks, right? I mean, what are we doing here? That said, I am looking forward to seeing him back. I'm hoping that he can get himself in a position where he's feeling good, and I want to see him play baseball. I mean, he's 22. He's supposed to be in a really important part of the future. But Heston Kjerstad's rehabbing. I don't know if there's a place for him on this roster. I'm not excited about that idea. Pitching wise, Helsley isn't imminent. I think he's feeling better. I think he's probably going to start throwing again in the not too distant future. I think there's a hope that he could be back by the end of the month. So that would be good news for the bullpen. That's hanging in there. Again, that's the
Rico
one area.
Garcia may Zach Britton him, or before it's
I mean,
all over
Rico
with.
Garcia has just been phenomenal. I mean, he's a great story, but yeah, I mean, Dean Kramer's. I know he's been able to throw some because it's been a quad issue. So, but his return's not imminent. So, who are the reserves that are helping? I mean, Westberg. I'm more bracing to hear the more ominous out for the year than any positive update that he's going to be coming back real soon as a DH. I mean, maybe he will, but I kind of feel we know where that's going at this point in time. So there's not a whole lot. I mean, they are what they are at this point. If they're not going to find solutions internally, then
Yeah,
yeah,
if Gunnar Henderson's not your solution or Pete Alonso, then you don't have a
yeah.
solution.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've got a handful of guys that are playing well. Rutschman, Basayo. I want to see Taylor Ward start hitting for more power. I mean, I think there's a fine line there with drawing walks. You still want him to slug, but they need Gunnar to look like Gunnar, and he hasn't looked like Gunnar since maybe the first couple weeks of the season. They need Alonso to get on a roll more consistently. Go down the list, right? I mean, and I mean the starting pitching, it has to be better. I again, all the discussion about needing an ace, they could have an ace right now, and if the other guys were pitching the way they are right now, this rotation would still stink right now. So it's not just an ace. They need to be better. Like I said, I'm fine if in hindsight it was a mistake to say Bradish and Rogers and Boz are your 1, 2, 3, but can those guys at least pitch like a good 3, 4, 5 then? They haven't even done that much. So just it's disappointing. And maybe they'll win this series against the Yankees, and maybe they'll go to DC and win a series there. But I'm tired of having to keep playing this maybe, maybe, maybe. It feels much more like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown at this point whenever they win a game, and you're trying to hope that that's the start of them getting on a little bit of a roll here.
43 years, and Luke is still here waiting, wishing and hoping and hoping and wishing. It's like an old Frank Sinatra song. He is Baltimore Luke. You can find him out on the internet. You can find me anywhere good crab cakes are being served here this week. We're going to be at Fadley's at Lexington Market on Wednesday during the Yankees game, as it turns out, when they move. We don't feel like playing the game at 7. Y'all get down here at 1 today. I'm sure that's going to work out great. Of course, Luke would say, well, they can't play it in the rain, and I would agree with that, but it's less than ideal, as is this trip to Washington. Tampa Bay is maybe better than the Yankees. We'll see them next week as well. The Ravens schedule coming out on Thursday night. Luke and I will be here Friday morning to break it all down. As far as I know, the Ravens aren't dealing Lamar Jackson anytime soon, but I won't start any rumors here unless we're going to take phone calls like they do at the Fan. He is Luke. I am Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.